Just going to wait a few minutes for everybody to come live. Today is Wednesday, March the 2nd, 2022. I want to welcome you to Shortcuts for Your Soul. Today I have the honor and privilege of having the energy of the being called Kuan Yin, who is a divine feminine master, an ascended master now. And she wanted to talk about divine independence. And we're going to get into that. Good morning. Good morning, Daniela. We're just going to wait a couple more minutes. That's right. So, divine independence. It's a very funny thing. She says it's recognizing that you are not separate in any respect from any aspect of your being. There is a level of freedom that will come to you when you understand the nature of your consciousness. The nature of your consciousness is such that it is never in a place of separation. And in that place of complete and total unity, there is an independence, a worry-free consciousness, where you need not concern yourself with the ways and means of events as all events proceed from your nature of that divinity. When you recognize the nature of who you are, there is no need to pursue or acquire, for it is all provided in the moment by the very nature of your consciousness. Divine independence is something that is only achieved when you have no further need to acquire or anticipate. You are simply in complete and total unity with all aspects of yourself. There is no requirement then for you to do anything other than what you are being in the moment, for the moment is very clear of itself. There is no future, there is no past. There is simply the deliciousness of being what you are. And I find it rather funny having a communication through another individualized form to communicate with you, as there is really no need for that other than the fact that you have asked for this. And so what you receive is what you have requested from yourself. Your divine independence means you are not distracted nor disturbed by worldly events. You are in recognition that there is an inevitability of being, just being. That change is not something that is to be perceived as differentiated from you, but rather a very clear and present awareness of yourself simply being. There is no seeking, there's no acquiring, there's simply being. The question that many of you ask is, how do I find my freedom? How do I find my freedom? How do I find this place of divine independence? And you've heard it said by many, to liberate yourself from the unnecessary attachments, to liberate yourself from the unnecessary attachments of separation. For any conception that something else exists is a perpetuation of separation. You do not think of your body as something like your hands or your feet. You do not think of them as independent of you. You do not think of them as something separate from you. You can use each one as you need to in the moment, but you do not think of them as separate from you. And as such, you have no concern of how you will walk or how you will think, because it is already established. There's no separateness in that perception of the body. So to the greater world, functions in that it is also an aspect of you. Whether you call it war or peace, they're aspects of your wholeness. And if you can refrain from judgment or attack or denial of these things, then you will simply enjoy the nature of the movement of transformation that is afforded in being aware of the relationship you have with your consciousness as a whole and complete organism, not as something that is separate. You cannot separate yourself from yourself, but this does loan itself to the experience of otherness, the experience of otherness. The moment you separate one part from another, that state of divine independence is still existent, but you are simply not aware of it. You are aware that these are words that are coming to you through to your consciousness, and you are aware of these words, and they seem to be coming from another place, but in reality, they are coming from the exact same place that you are perceiving them. They're coming from the exact same place you are perceiving them. In this case, your perception exists closer within your own mind. That the very nature of your perception is that it is not separate from any aspect of itself. And divine independence simply allows you to move through the experience of being without experiencing any aspect of that self as separate from any other aspect. There is no need to judge. There's no need to criticize. There's no need to weigh or measure. There's simply the delight in being. This perceptual change from one that is aware to one that observes is what we call the differentiation, where your ability to see one thing or another causes what many of you would call differences in perception. So that the one thing is hot, one thing is cold, one thing is good, one thing is bad. And in that you gather yourself into an individualized experience of a single perspective of your consciousness, a single perspective of your consciousness that looks at all other things as separate from itself. That is not what can be divine independence. If you understand the nature of yourself, then you would smile upon everything, recognizing that you are orchestrating that manifestation in front of you right now. The challenge that many of you face is releasing yourself from these polarities of good and bad, right and wrong. The polarities, when they are removed, give you a very different perspective on what you are experiencing in any given moment. As long as there is a judgment, there is going to remain a lack of that independence. As long as you see something as good or something as bad, you will find yourself in that place where you are experiencing what you call pleasure and pain, because the distinction between one aspect of yourself and another lends itself to conflict. Which is why so many of you find yourselves trying to gather in groups to find a unity, a connection, a familiarity of self. Not seeking to lose yourself in the group, but to align yourself to the awareness of your wholeness, of your completeness. For in your wholeness and your completeness is your divine independence. In that awareness of your wholeness and your completeness is divine independence. It is just a perceptual change, and many of you get glimpses of that when you lay your body down to go to rest in the evenings. There is a space between the moment your body is lying down and the moment that you are not the body lying down. You are simply being. You are simply being. And unfortunately, you may not have the reference point to consciously have this reference point to understand what I'm saying. But if you gather that this place of separation keeps you from experiencing what I'm speaking of, but the wholeness of yourself, even even I, when I first journeyed from the separation to the wholeness, felt some degree of confusion between the paradox of a unified self and the individual aspects that make up that unified self. But you can, the analogy I was given by my teachers was quite simple. If you look upon the functionality of your body, there are literally millions and millions of different beings that make up that body, but you do not think of them as all these different components that make up your whole body. They said to me, all I had to do is consider that I accept this wholly and completely as who I am and that body. Then why could I not accept too the relationship that in wholeness that all other beings around me, all other things around me have the exact same relationship in terms of my perception, so that my awareness of my body as a functioning whole through which I worked is no different than the functioning whole of the divine body, all that is working with itself. It does not require thought. Your body does not require thought for it to function. It is able to function independent, but in harmony with your consciousness until you get out of harmony with its consciousness, which many of you often do. You find ways of getting in conflict about it. But I was instructed very carefully to become very aware of the unified harmony that exists within the framework of my own body. And to simply be in that, and then to extend that perceptual consideration to everything, to extend that perceptual consideration to all peoples, to the entire planet even, that this whole organism then works the same way as my body does in my relationship to it individually, so too does the consciousness of all that is on this planet work in the same fashion if I become aware of that reality. Much the same way I became aware of the reality that my body is doing certain things for me without my having to think about it, that there was an autonomy that I was a part of, a unified consciousness, and that relationship exists not only within the confines of my own body, but within the greater context of the completeness of humanity. The difference is, am I conscious of that relationship? And divine independence merely can be used as a relative term for conceptions of reality based on the experience of being in a human form is one contextual reality. The consideration of being a conglomerate of all of humanity is another contextual reality of perception. And so you have the center point of the individual and many collecting around him, the single cell, the multi-cell, the single human, the multi-human. There is a freedom that comes to the person that understands these words, that understands the experience of these words, to come to the realization that you are already divinely independent, that there are millions, millions, and millions that are in harmony with you even now in that body. Millions of living organisms are in harmony with you. And when you can expand the context of that relationship beyond the confines of your own individual body, you'll have another perspective on what you are observing on this planet. You will have less judgment. You'll have an awareness that the body of humanity functions in a very similar fashion as the body you exist in. The body of humanity functions in a similar fashion as the body that you exist with does on your behalf. So too humanity does when you expand to that greater perceptual context that you are the humanity that you are observing. Then the idea of practices, the idea of methods can have a different value. As you have, some of you have learned the process of meditation and getting your body to be in a deeper, more profound and cooperative state with you, where it is undistracted and you are in complete unity with it. Also with your mind, in learning to get your mind still and quiet, to get into greater harmony with you. Well, the same relationship can exist in the greater humanity, where your consciousness now embraces all of humanity as if it's itself, as if humanity is the body of your being, and that you're simply now going through a process of learning to utilize that body in a new fashion. In meditation, you can assert certain conditions over the individual body, but also in meditation, you can assert influences over the greater body of the self, the collective humanity, if you like. And so divine independence is simply recognizing that there is a sequence of evolution of your consciousness from one perspective of being to a broader perspective of being, to a broader perspective of being, to a broader perspective of being. For you are not limited in consciousness in terms of humanity. You are only limited in terms of consciousness of what you believe you are. And if you believe that you are that independent body exclusively, then you are bound by the rules of separation based on the condition of that individual body and the things that you do with it or do not do with it. Whereas if you expand your consciousness to recognize that you have a greater self that's independent of the individual of that body, but inclusive of the wholeness of all of humanity, then the role of creation takes on a different dimension. The vitality of your body and the vitality of human consciousness are not that different once the context of your awareness changes. When the context of your awareness shifts from the finite to the more expanded, you have a different level of creation. You have a different level of responsibility. You have a different level of being. And that level of being becomes more and more inclusive, for as you expand out from one point, you include more points of self within it. Much the same way as you became aware of how to use that body through a gradual process of instruction and interaction with matter, so too the same relationship of mastery applies when you begin to expand your awareness outside the context of that finite form into a greater self that is available to you. Wow. Thank you so much for that. Good morning. Remember, if you're new to this channel, hit that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you get notified when we come live. So for those of you that are new here today, this is the energy of Kuan Yin, and she's talking about divine independence, not divine independence. Question for Kuan Yin. Pain on the right side of my head persists. I feel the pain keeps the focus on the mind. How can this be healed in order to have more balance between mind and heart? Again, the moment you maintain a degree of separation, there is a degree of discomfort. The nature of separation in the material realm is that of pleasure-pain, and separation is the most destructive form of that sense of pain. This discomfort that you feel in your head, again, if you are looking at it from the perspective of your discomfort, then you are in judgment. I would simply say to you, dear one, to take your hands and place it to your head and be willing to extend your love and your inclusiveness in this, to simply, your hands, to feel this pain in the head and to say, I love you, I am with you, we are one. To very deeply go into that, to end the separation of judgment, which says, this is what I feel and this is what you feel, and they are different, this is uncomfortable. No, you must end that separation. Divine independence is a state of not living in separateness. It is a state of being in wholeness, in a totality of it being, in recognizing your consciousness is not separate from any other aspect of itself. But that very intention clearly to that in your head, that I am with you, I love you, we are together, we are one. You will feel it almost immediately, for this energy of unity, this energy of coming together, expand yourself beyond separateness. And that's what the end of separation is. The end of separation is literally ending separation. So you become more of what you already are. I encourage you to do this. Wow, great question. Question from Ruth. How does less suffering here on planet Earth look? Again, if you are looking to find a way to end suffering, you may be hard-pressed to find it. But how is it that you can come to a place of not suffering, I think is probably a better question to respond to. And that is quite simply learning this process of being here, being now, being in this moment, where you are not bound by the weighing and measuring of what was and what will be, to simply come to this moment. And if you are willing to come to this moment, there is a peace that begins to unfold inside you, to pull your attention away from the separations of sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell, to bring yourself simply into this moment, to bring the whole of you here and now. This process of divine independence begins to unfold always with peace, always with calm, always with quiet and silence. Even though there may be great noise or distraction around you, your ability to remain simply aware and present of those here and now will afford you that movement and consciousness that you're seeking from separateness to that unified place, because that is what you're simply seeking, is that place of unified being from this place of separateness. And it is quite easy to reach, even in a few breaths. There are many of us that have come and worked through this one that illuminate the ways to simply and easily do this. Yes, thank you. Question from Tanya. My high heart is burning like a subtle fire lately. Any message from Kuan Yin? She's saying to sit in that fire. Again, you can hear another example here where there is one that is separate from that which they perceive, and it is the separation that keeps the comparative analysis alive. It's the separation that keeps the perception of good and evil in play. This fire in your heart, join with it. Be present with the fire in your heart. Allow yourself to be in one with this. To stay in a place of examination keeps you in separation. The greater the separation, the longer it persists, the greater the discomfort that you find. This is why so many of you will come into this world so peacefully and so blissfully. In fact, almost all of you do. You come into this world peacefully and blissfully, and as you are evolved up by your environmental conditioning, the process of separation begins to take place. So by the time you get to that interesting age of the biological capability to reproduce, a modality, a perception of separation is well established, that there is you and the rest of the world. There is you in your body, there's you in your thoughts. There is this well-established separateness that has been impinged upon you. But all of that can be liberated very simply by going into that fire, not seeing the fire and you as something different, but being in that energy. You will find the discomfort and the illumination that is there will come to you more as a felt experience than as something you have to perceive. It is a felt experience that you get to experience, not simply something you have to watch and observe. You must end the separation in order for that sense of wholeness, that sense of completeness to begin to be felt as it truly is in all of you. Even now, it is still there. That place of wholeness and completeness is still within you. Wow, thank you. Question from Jacqueline. My daughter's dog has a bad my daughter's dog has a bad skin condition, and she has tried everything to help him. What can she do to help him? Sorry, she feels great joy at this creature. The offer to heal is quite humbling. You must understand the concern and the fear and the worry are the first things that must go. You must understand that the relationship between these two is quite profound. And so the concerns and the fear and the worry, they must go first. If you're looking simply for a means to heal the skin condition, begin there first. Let the love, not the fear, be the determining factor in their closeness. Simply remembering her love and not being in that state of fear, not trying to get rid of a problem, which again maintains separation. The greater the separation, the greater the discomfort. But to embrace the wholeness of this creature from the vibrational state of love. Yes, there are certain things that can be done also. There are from a place of healing, which is a place again where you are seeking to establish an ending of separation. For that is what all healing is. It is a place where there is no judgment, there is no attack. There is simply a complete embrace of object and perception become one. The two become one. Understand this. So please encourage her to release her fear and her worry, to be in that vibration of love with that dear one. Again, I will do that. So I'm also getting that, I don't know, but somebody else is also saying there is avocado. I'm getting this image of an avocado, something about avocado on the skin. Yes, I don't know who this is, but they're male energy, and they're coming in. They're saying put an avocado on the skin, like an avocado paste on the skin. That's the other thing that's coming through. Wow. Thank you. Question from Danielle. Could you partake in the role of being a guide in my ascension, as well as protector and companion, and constantly until I achieve full ascension, or do I say divine independence? She's laughing. She said, "This is already established. You've simply offered an invitation, but it was already accepted. Again, as long as this separation still exists, there is the discomfort. The request you made has already been established. If you know that it's been established, then there would be no need to ask." There is that smile. She's saying something about a smile. That smile that you hold, must keep it in your heart. You must keep this smile very active in your heart, in the knowing of this as being already established, that your request is already fulfilled. And that smile in that truth, establish it. The smile in the knowledge of that truth shall establish it. Wow, thank you, Danielle. Oh, hello, Jenny. A question from Vertical. Some say you are equivalent energy of the Western Mother Mary. What is your feminine energy that you share with the world? It's important you understand that, again, whatever name you use, it is my name. In the perception of my divine independence, I do not see myself as separate from you. I am simply seeking to bring us closer together in the awareness that you have, the awareness that I have, that we really are one and the same. If you're asking me to be specific, it would be difficult, for I would then have to create another separate aspect of analysis. And that separate aspect of analysis, again, takes me further from what I am, not closer to it. If you are seeking to understand how to wrap your attention around the fundamentals of being that which you are, it is quite simple to gently and deliberately align yourself to the recognition that you are the totality of what you are seeking. That aspect of the self that you are seeking to be is already established in yourself. The moment you conceive, I wish to be more whole, I wish to be more divine, I wish to be, the moment you conceive it, it is done. The question then is, are you aware that it is done? When you open and close a hand, you are very aware that it is done. You're very aware that it is done. But so too, when you conceive of an idea in the nature of its conception, it is done. But then you seek evidence to whether or not it is done, and then the separation perpetuates. That what is established in truth is established in all truth. Fee 444. My lovely nephew and niece have an inherited progressive neurological syndrome. Is there any way this can be released from their illness? Well, you've already conceived of the idea, but the nature of your belief is somewhat limited. You have already conceived of this idea. Can they not do this also? If you join in this idea very collectively, very clearly, that this is not what you think it is, that it is actually a progressively beneficial condition versus a degenerative one, you must understand that the nature and quality of your thought from the perspective of your individuality is extremely creative. The reversal that you are seeking, the reversal that you are seeking of the negative is establishing the truth, which is the whole beautiful and complete nature of these dear ones, that their nature, the quality of their being is whole and complete and perfect. In this conception, you establish the divine independence from the condition that you're seeking amelioration from. Understand? Your conception of this wholeness and completeness, the nature that you and they conceive this reality, the reality very deeply and profoundly conceived, establishes a very specific effect in your being. Whether it is in the belief that you are somehow an observer of them and they are separate in their condition from you, or that you are one with them and that there is no condition, they are whole and perfect and complete. To conceive this so deeply and so profoundly, your being becomes that. And because your being is that, then all will be that way. It is only from the perspective of some conception of separation that a condition can be maintained for any extended period, or a condition can progress or digress, again, when certain considerations are held in the perception of your consciousness, which you can change at will. Thank you for that question. Question from Benjamin. I have been waking up with pressure or pain on my right side. What is it? Is it my liver or intestines? And what can I do about it? Yeah. No, this is again, I don't know who this is, but they're coming in, and whoever this person is, they're literally from the Civil War era. And I don't know, they're a strong male. They're there's actually two of them. Yeah, they're dressed in a uniform, and they're showing me something had pierced your side. Something had pierced your side in this war. Again, it's like American Civil War era. Yes, but this is not the first time this has happened to you in the same place. They're saying thrice times. It's happened 3 times now to you in the same place. Why is it happening 3 times? Surrender all aggression. Whoever this is, they're saying you have to surrender all of your aggression. You have to let your aggression go. The pain will go. Any aggressive thoughts or tendencies you have, release them. You'll find that will ameliorate itself. That's connected specifically to aggression. You've been involved in 3 separate instances where you've actually been wounded in the same place. The most recent being the American Civil War. But I'm also seeing an image of a Napoleonic involvement too, where you're actually involved in a similar thing there. And one even before that further, but that's not necessary to go into. But yeah, makes you release your aggression. Wow, thank you so much for that question. Again, I don't know who they were. Question from Grace: how can women in countries like Afghanistan empower themselves to gain their freedom, rights, and divine independence back from a male-dominated society? Thank you. I don't know who this is, but they're saying this. This is not yet the time. This will come soon. There are events and circumstances being shaped by your collective consciousness now that will precipitate events that will force a necessity for greater love and acceptance towards one another. It will become necessary in order for your species to survive. But this is something that is in a process now, but not simply for one group or another, but for the whole of you. This is for the whole of you. Wow. Got time for one more question from Nancy. My dreams have been disturbing. Are they giving me a message? She's saying you must bring your mind to greater peace in your waking hours. In your waking hours, in that delightful form you find yourself, to spend greater time in peace, and you will find these disturbances will pass. For that which you are experiencing in the day shall be experienced also in the night. The night and the day are not separate. They are one and the same. Establish your peace. Wow, thank you so much. Oh, thank you, Benjamin. I really appreciate that super chat. And I want to say thank you to her. I want to say thank you to Kuan Yin so much for being present today. I really wish I could export what she transmits through me, like when I feel it directly. Let me just do this now. I'm just requesting that she transmit to all of you the energy that that I feel her putting through me directly to each of you, in whatever way and capacity that you can receive that. Please receive that. And I want to say thank you to everybody for taking the time to come out today. And I want to remind you that that on Friday we've got a new Earth dawns with the Divine Collective. I have no idea what it'll be about, but the new Earth dawns, and that's going to be on Friday, March the 4th, 2022, with the Divine Collective. And on Saturday, our meditation is going to be called Connecting to All, and I hope you'll join us for that. Also want to remind those of you that are interested in becoming a practicing medium, or at least be able to connect to your guides and angels so you're not going through life struggling on your own. We got our Mediumship 101 Beginners course begins this Saturday, March the 5th. Go to my website, williammichaelforbes.com, sign up for the course. Like, open up your clairs, these clairvoyance, clairaudience, you have these other senses besides the 5 physical senses. Our course, we teach you how to begin to open those other senses up, so you're not operating just from the sensorial world. There's a whole world of knowledge and wisdom available to you through your guides, your angels, and other multidimensional beings. And I invite you to come out to the course. Go register today, williammichaelforbes.com, Mediumship 101 program. And I want to wish you all much love. Have yourselves a wonderful, joyful day, and I'll see you guys on Friday. Bye, everybody.